This is the CBS Evening News. Connie Chung reporting. Good evening. Sarah Aldrete, the so-called witch of a drug smuggling cult, is in police custody in Mexico City tonight after she was captured and her boyfriend, the ringleader of the cult, was killed in a bloody shootout. Aldrete and her boyfriend are accused of killing 15 people in ritual human sacrifices near Matamoros. More from Peter Van Sant.
Lawmen called her the witch, and this afternoon in Mexico City, Sarah Aldrete, one of the alleged leaders of a satanic drug smuggling cult believed responsible for at least 15 murders, proclaimed her innocence.
On TV, watching all this, but you know, all the sacrifices and all that, I mean, like, it was like, I couldn't believe it. That's true. I mean, it was amazing.
Aldrete and 3 other cult members were arrested yesterday in Mexico City following a gun battle with police. Inside this apartment building, police found the body of the cult's ringleader, Adolfo Constanzo, the man authorities say masterminded the sacrificial mutilation murders of more than a dozen people, discovered last month in this farm field near the Mexican border town of Matamoros.
He was the one that, through admissions and statements from the people under arrest, he was the one that directed the people to be picked up and sacrificed.
Suspect Alvaro de Leon was also paraded before reporters today. De Leon, who had obviously been beaten, claims he shot Constanzo after the cult leader begged to be killed. After the gunfight, authorities found thousands of dollars in cash, some of it burned by the suspects to keep it out of the hands of police. Across the border in Hitchcock, Texas, James and Helen Kilroy attended church services. Their 21-year-old son, Mark, a medical student at the University of Texas, was among those murdered by the cult.
We just felt that it was very good that he was captured, and the whole group was captured, because that group was a group that just killed people, and we thought he'd just continue killing.
He was possessed. Nobody, human being, can do this.
Authorities say Sarah Aldrete will be tried in Mexico. She will face questions about this farmland-turned-human slaughterhouse, where victims were cut to pieces, where kettles containing human blood and bones were discovered, and where investigators still can't answer the question, why? Peter Van Sant, CBS News, Houston.
American observers who are in Panama to watch for voting irregularities in the presidential election there tonight call the process incredibly bad. The observers and even voters fear that the hand-picked choice of Panama's military leader, Manuel Noriega, will win with fraudulent ballots. Juan Vasquez is in Panama City after a tense day of long lines and hot tempers.
Emotions were running so high on Election Day that shouting matches erupted at various precincts. Bitter testimony that Panama remains openly and deeply divided over the regime of General Noriega. The arrival of the candidates themselves ignited even bigger demonstrations.
The only problem is a tremendous number of voters who want to participate.
Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter is an invited observer, but a White House delegation that is here without invitation found lots of problems.
Some fraud so far. I think it's too early to tell the extent of it.
The principal complaint was that Noriega soldiers were being allowed to vote while others had to wait, sometimes for hours. We only vote once, this soldier said, but the opposition isn't so sure.
People want the change. We want freedom.
She complained that her uncle had died 7 months ago, but his name was still on the register. Later, the delegation was given a fistful of marked ballots that a man said he was given to distribute to voters in line.
The White House delegation is traveling under special U.S. military orders, a maneuver which obliges the government to accept their entry into Panama. But the acting president of the Noriega regime called their presence here a deliberate provocation.
At one upper-middle-class voting precinct, their arrival sparked a virtual anti-Noriega rally. Even so, this group was allowed to observe the vote without interference from Noriega's police and soldiers.
There's a turnout, an extraordinary turnout, and people are really looking forward to a peaceful transition into democracy.
But so far, the votes haven't been counted. With the political temperature so high already, the fear is that if Noriega's candidates claim victory and the opposition refuses to accept the loss, it could generate a confrontation in the streets. Juan Vasquez, CBS News, Panama City.
There was a heavy turnout in Bolivia, where voters were also electing a new president. Opinion polls show former military dictator Hugo Banzer leading. Secretary of State James Baker leaves for Moscow tomorrow for meetings with Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev and Foreign Minister Eduard Shevardnadze. The talks are expected to lay the groundwork for a U.S.-Soviet summit. On this day before the space shuttle comes down, a minor problem came up. James Hattori has our report.
A computer failure aboard the shuttle Atlantis this afternoon marred an otherwise flawless mission. As NASA engineers worked the problem on the ground, the astronauts switched the shuttle's main systems to a backup computer.
The flight computers are in a redundant set of 4 with a 5th computer as a backup, so there is no direct impact to the flight.
The last-minute problem disturbed what was to be a leisurely day.
Okay, stand by just a minute and you're going to see Venus. There it is.
Earlier, the astronauts beamed back a view of the planet Venus rising over an earthly sunset. The Magellan probe launched last week has now traveled 500 million miles closer to that mysterious planet. Among the onboard experiments, one big hit, a $1,400 video camcorder, which has sent better-looking pictures than the 9 standard equipment cameras aboard Atlantis. They cost NASA $10 million.
The camcorder has been working really excellently. It's very, very user-friendly. It almost tells you how to operate it.
Late today, Mission Control decided to have the astronauts replace the computer which failed with an onboard spare. Barring any complications, NASA still plans for Atlantis to land as scheduled tomorrow afternoon. James Hattori, CBS News, Houston.
We'll have more news in just a moment.
This is smooth, creamy yogurt. And this is how your taste buds see it. Add the nutty, crunchy taste of Post Grape Nuts, the cereal with oomph, and send your taste buds on a wild adventure. Oomph it up with Grape Nuts.
Hallmark has a way to make somebody's day.
They always say the way someone is brought up can make such a difference.
A way of making every word ring true.
Because you had so much to do with the person I've become.
Find a way to give a part of you.
Mom, I hope I can be as good a mother as you've been to me.
Hallmark has a way.
Love, Jenny.
It's farewell to old places, a road to new faces. It's driving to meet a new neighbor. Goodbye to the roads that we've known. Hello, the Saber.
As the roadway unwinds, this is quality time
that you and the Saber share. Oh, the great American road belongs to you.
Now get up to $1,500 cash back on LeSabre or 2.9 APR financing.
We interrupt this fill-up for a reminder.
That'll be a charge?
The Discover card actually pays you cash back for every charge. Well, we're on our way. It pays to Discover.
Some student activists at Beijing University today said they will continue their school boycott at least through the coming week. But as John Chan reports, the protests at most other universities are winding down, and most students are expected back in school this week.
After 3 weeks of protest that shook the communist power structure of China, most of the students will return to classes tomorrow. But most of their demands, such as freedom of the press and the release of political prisoners, remain distant dreams.
Just the fact that the government they were allowed to speak their mind without being beaten up or without being put in jail has been the most important thing for them right now.
The students will try to register their new campus unions as legal organizations, then press the government again for a dialogue.
At a certain level, all this foreign press gives us a protection, but the government is afraid of the people.
And China's rulers also worry that brutal repression in Beijing would accelerate the flight of skilled people and capital from the wealthy British colony, Hong Kong, before it comes under Chinese sovereignty less than 8 years from now. But the enforced restraint toward the student demonstrators does not mean that communist leaders will welcome democracy.
I don't think so. What anything can really happen? What any real change can happen? I don't think so.
The pro-democracy movement is the first political force in 40 years that is not under Communist Party control. It has brought China to a crossroads without bloodshed. But neither the students nor the government know where it will go from here. John Sheehan, CBS News, Beijing.
A congressional panel opened hearings in Alaska today on the Exxon Valdez oil spill. Captain Joseph Hazelwood goes on trial next month, charged with operating the tanker while drunk. More and more employers are addressing the problem of alcohol abuse by their workers. One former abuser who got help preferred to keep his identity secret.
I almost lost my job. I mean, I couldn't make it to work. I'd get up, I was sick to my stomach.
Bob is a recovering alcoholic. He's also been a bus driver with the Chicago Transit Authority for the last 12 years. He's also living proof that alcohol rehabilitation programs can work.
Before I went into the program, I was a risk to the public. But no, I'm not.
Randolph is next, Randolph.
But the Exxon Valdez accident has raised serious questions about every company's rehabilitation program.
Starting initial charging pump.
Especially companies with so-called safety-sensitive positions.
If you have people who are involved in safety-sensitive positions who are jeopardizing the lives of passengers and co-workers, we have to look at that very carefully.
Despite the careful look, right now the CTA couldn't be happier with its 15-year-old rehabilitation program.
We have not had a major accident or a minor accident, to our knowledge, of anybody who has been returned to a former operating position after treatment.
One reason, if you agree to rehabilitation, you can eventually return to your old job. If you don't, you're out.
They keep a constant eye on you, seeing that you're getting cleaned up, and the test will show right away if you're not cooperating.
What worries people in the field is that if other companies follow Exxon's decision not to allow even rehabilitated alcoholics back into safety-sensitive jobs, the problem could get worse, not better.
You'll find people not seeking help because they'll be afraid of losing their job.
Bob agrees.
If the CTA got stricter and anybody that went into the program, they said they couldn't go back, I don't think that they would get the cooperation from the employees. I don't think they would come forward.
But even the CTA acknowledges that despite the success of their program, there is a relapse rate of 20% among alcoholics. The Exxon Valdez accident has only brought home to companies the need not only to monitor recovering alcoholics, but their own programs as well.
We know that rehabilitation works. If it requires some more stringent requirements, that maybe that's what we're going to have to do.
And that's our news. Dan Rather will be here tomorrow night. And later tonight, Richard Schlesinger sitting in for Bill Plant with the CBS Sunday Night News. I'm Connie Chung in New York. I'll see you again next Sunday night. Thank you for joining us, and for all of us at CBS News, good night.
Give up hot chocolate just because I started wearing dentures?
Heat-resistant Fix-A-Dent spreads evenly to keep on fixing loose spots, no matter how often it gets hot.
Scab!
Fix-A-Dent, and forget it.
Heart's Blockade keeps fleas and ticks from getting on your pet. Scientific tests verify that Heart's Blockade repellent gives effective flea and tick protection for dogs and cats. With our new test data, you can be assured of both your pet's comfort and total protection or your money back. Used as directed, no other product we've tested is as effective for the control of fleas and ticks. Call this toll-free number for more information. Heart's Blockade, clinically